Mideast Realities, a unique half-hour highlighting the real Middle East. It is a program of information that government and media often misrepresent or just don't want you to know. Get the news without bias. Facts without distortion. And most importantly, analysis from the experts. With your host and chairman of the Committee on the Middle East, Mertv Sd. Each week, this program will feature an interview, discussion, or an event to help viewers understand the complex situation in today's Middle East, and especially the realities of U.S. policies toward that crucial region of the world. Mideast Realities.
Hello, I'm Mertv Sd. We're outside the Israeli embassy, where we have been here actually for an hour already. There's been a demonstration for Mordechai Vanunu, a name that probably most of you have never heard. During this program, you'll learn who Mordechai Vanunu is, you'll learn why we're here today, and you'll learn why every year, in fact, this group of people comes to the Israeli embassy and demonstrates for the release of Mordechai Vanunu from Israeli prisons. As I said, we've already been here for about an hour. Across the street, a number of the activists are praying and protesting. The police have told them that only a number of them can actually come onto the Israeli property or they'll arrest them. There seems to be an accommodation that's been reached. There were maybe 25 people here earlier. And in just a few minutes, we will sort of take you back. We'll take you to the beginning of the demonstration, and we'll let you hear for yourself what the organizers have to say. There were a number of speeches, there were a number of prayers, there were a number of people who expressed not only their solidarity with Mordechai Vanunu, but their concern for the nuclear weapons issue, not only in the Middle East, but throughout the world. So thank you for watching our program, and now let us take you back to the beginning of this demonstration about an hour ago.
We'll do it after. Sisters and brothers, we come here to the Israeli embassy today, as we have in the past, over the past several years, to remember a brother of faith and courage who continues to languish in Ashkelon prison in Israel, Mertv Sd. We are here to commemorate the 9th anniversary of his abduction and imprisonment, his 9 years in solitary confinement. And as we have in the past, we come here to appeal to the Israeli government in the name of the God of mercy and justice and compassion to release Mertv Sd. Mertv Sd is a former nuclear technician who worked in Israel on Israel's secret nuclear weapons program. And because he told the world about Israel's nuclear secrets, he was abducted, tried in secret in Israel, and sentenced to 18 years in prison. 9 years later, he continues to languish in prison, and there are thousands of people around the world who demand his release. We here represent different groups from Washington, D.C. and around the country, and we come here in a spirit of peace and nonviolence, in solidarity with other friends of ours who are in prison for the sake of disarmament, and we join our voices with theirs as we call for a world without weapons, call for the abolition of all nuclear weapons and all weapons of mass destruction. We call for all the resources that are being misused on weapons of mass murder to be redirected to meet the urgent human needs of our day. I would like to invite you to join us in singing a song from the Hebrew Scriptures, which calls us to study war no more and to turn the swords of our time into plowshares. And everyone beneath their vine and fig tree shall live in peace and not afraid. And everyone beneath their vine and fig tree shall live in peace and not afraid. And into plowshares turn their swords, nation shall learn war no more. And into plowshares turn their swords, nation shall learn war no more. Everyone beneath their vine and fig tree shall live in peace and not afraid. Everyone beneath their vine and fig tree shall live in peace and not afraid. And into plowshares turn their swords, nation shall learn war no more. And into plowshares turn their swords, nation shall learn war no more. And everyone beneath their vine and fig tree shall live in peace and not afraid. And everyone beneath their vine and fig tree shall live in peace and not afraid. And into plowshares turn their swords, nation shall learn war no more. And into plowshares turn their swords, nation shall learn war no more. I would now like to introduce our brother Sam Day, who is the coordinator of the U.S. campaign to free Mertv Sd. Sam has recently completed a 6-month prison sentence for crossing the line at the STRATCOM, the Strategic Air Command, in Omaha, Nebraska, to demand an end to U.S. nuclear war-making plans. During this 50th anniversary year of the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Sam and many of us present here, along with Mertv Sd, have engaged in truth-speaking to the nuclear powers of the world to disarm. And so I'd like to introduce Sam today who has dedicated his life to making sure that there can be a world safe for the children and a world free of all weapons of mass murder.
Hello, everybody. I want you to be aware, first of all, who the previous speaker was. Most of you know Art Lappin, but there may be some of you who don't realize the key role that Art's been playing. Some of you may not be aware of the key role that Art in particular and the Dorothy Day Catholic worker community in general have been playing over the last 3 years in focusing the U.S. campaign to free Mordecai Vanunu here in the nation's capital. And they have been out here year after year, particularly on the anniversary of the kidnapping of Mordecai Vanunu. And they have been here month after month in small but very persistent vigils to remind the state of Israel through the embassy that the world is watching and that the world has not forgotten Mordecai Vanunu. And that, once again, is one of the reasons why we're here today, close to the 9th anniversary of the kidnapping of Mordecai Vanunu. We don't have a very large number here. Now, we have people who believe very deeply that Israel needs to be reminded of what it's doing to one of its own citizens, of the torture to which they're subjecting an individual who acted purely out of conscience, with no motive whatever, except to share with his countrymen and with the world the deep, dark secret of Israel's entry into the nuclear weapons club. Not just a token entry, as South Africa has had done, not just a futile effort to go nuclear, as perhaps Iraq and North Korea thought of doing, but a truly massive entry, to the point where the government of Israel now has somewhere between 100 and 300 sophisticated warheads of advanced design. And they are there for the purpose of being used. This is our own far vaster nuclear inventory is where it is for the purpose of being used. And so that was Mordecai Vanunu's gift, a free gift to his fellow country people and a free gift to all of us in the world of the knowledge of the awful truth that nuclear weapons had been introduced into the Middle East. And for that he has been maligned, perjured, pictured as a spy and a traitor, and consigned to a living hell, a cell measuring 6 feet by 9 feet in Israel's maximum security prison at Ashkelon, and now for a total of 9 years, and still with another 9 years to serve. And he's been on there under conditions which have been condemned by many, many groups, including Amnesty International, which has looked into it and condemned the confinement of Israel as cruel and inhuman and degrading punishment, and has called for his release. Mordecai Vanunu has been the subject of a worldwide movement. We here in Washington today are only a tiny fraction of the worldwide movement that does call for not only the release of Mordecai Vanunu, but the celebration of what he did. And so we are here to tell our friends and loved ones in that embassy that the world is watching, and that they should feel shame for their violation of their own principles of Judaism and of Israel itself in torturing a human being as they are doing to Vanunu. And we are here just to remind them of that fact and to reproach them. And so, members of that embassy there, wherever you are, be aware that we reproach you for the mistreatment, the animal treatment of a person who you should be regarding as a hero, for sharing with the people of Israel information which they need to know, like it or not. But the Israeli embassy is only part of the audience that brings us here today. We're also here to talk to our own government. We are here to talk to our own government. We are Americans. We're not Israelis. And we're here to reproach our own government tenfold for the crime against Vanunu, because this is not just something that little Israel is doing by itself. Israel's development of nuclear weapons and Israel's punishment, exemplary punishment of a person who tried to blow the whistle on that, is being done with the knowledge and with the consent of the United States. And it is our country which is the patron of Israel, not only in nuclear affairs, but across the board, militarily and economically. It is our country which, if it had the desire, could apply the pressure not only to free Vanunu, but to acknowledge its possession of nuclear weapons and to get out of the nuclear weapons business, which is what Vanunu wanted done. No more nukes in Israel. But our government is not doing it, obviously, and one reason it's not doing it is because the state of Israel does the dirty work of the United States in the Middle East. Israel is the strategic surrogate of the United States in the Middle East. And in its development of nuclear weapons, Israel is simply following the lead of the United States itself. And we have an agenda with our own government. Our infatuation with weapons of mass destruction, our continuing design, production, and deployment of nuclear weapons despite the end of the Cold War and the collapse of the Soviet Union. And we are here not so much just to point the finger at Israel, but to use this anniversary in order to challenge our own government's development of nuclear weapons and challenge the hypocrisy of our own government, the double standard where it looks the other way with regard to Israel's nuclear weapons and then goes to war or threatens war against the puny efforts of third world states like North Korea and Iraq to even get a few nuclear weapons. And so long as that hypocrisy exists, then there will be no real advance towards true ending of the proliferation of nuclear weapons. So we're here to address the hypocrisy of our own government. And then the third audience is ourselves. It's true that Mordecai Vanunu is the proper object for humanitarian concern. It's true that every day that Mordecai Vanunu stays in prison is another figurative nail in his coffin. And it's true that even if he were not a anti-nuclear prisoner, he would still be worth our being here, just simply because he's a human being. But Mordecai Vanunu is more than that. Mordecai Vanunu is an unusual person who risked his liberty and his very life in order to tell the truth to his people. And he has exerted a tremendous amount of risk and is paying a tremendous punishment. As such, he serves as an inspiration and an example to us to redouble our own efforts to address nuclear secrecy and nuclear business as usual in our own government. Let us not forget that Israel's venture into weapons of mass destruction is a little tiny pinprick compared with our own development of these massive weapons systems. The real problem in the world, the nuclear problem, is not Israel. Israel is merely a symptom of the problem of nuclear proliferation. The real problem is the proliferation within the United States, the continuation of the nuclear arms infatuation despite the rhetoric of the Bush and the Clinton administrations. And we need to resist that. And we need to resist it across the board. Within the mainstream and outside the mainstream. We need to resist it with our words and our articles and our analyses, as virtually all of us are doing here. We also need to resist it with our bodies to the extent that our life circumstances permit. And if we think that it's too much for us to take risks that might deprive us of our liberty for a week or a month or even a year, and those are considerable risks, remember Mordecai Vanunu. Remember the far greater risk that Mordecai has taken, the far greater punishment that he is enduring for having blown the whistle and taken action in his own country. I can think of no better way to honor Mordecai Vanunu and to help him and support him spiritually and psychologically than to demonstrate to him by our actions that we admire what he did and that we are stimulated and inspired by him to redouble the intensity of our own efforts to bring about a nuclear-free world, beginning with a nuclear-free United States. So I salute all those people who are doing that, either with regard to Mordecai Vanunu or on their own. But Mordecai Vanunu should be an example to us. As Art Laffin has told you, he did inspire me to do some nuclear truth-telling last winter out at the headquarters of the U.S. Strategic Command in Offutt Air Force Base, Nebraska, which is the headquarters for the targeting and launching of more than 10,000, not just 1 or 200 as Israel has, but more than 10,000 United States nuclear weapons that are targeted on targets overseas. And so that was a form of truth-telling, telling the truth about Offutt Air Force Base to the people of Nebraska and to the people of the United States, which is in no way really comparable to Mordecai's sacrifice, but still it's an attempt to show that I personally want to honor him by following his example. So that is our third target. After the Israeli embassy, after the government of the United States, our third target is really ourselves, to celebrate what Mordecai Vanunu did by following his example of nuclear truth-telling in our lives, even if the cost is great. Thank you all for coming out this afternoon, and we're going to have a little bit more of a program now. And please keep in touch with Art Laffin and the Catholic Worker for ways in which you can help coming out to rallies like this, writing letters to Mordecai Vanunu, which are terribly important, and holding meetings that spread the word about the example of Mordecai Vanunu. So thank you very much, and Art, I'm going to give you the microphone back.
Friends, I'd like to share a letter that Mordecai Vanunu wrote to Sam in March. This is an excerpt from a letter from the Ashkelon prison. Dear Sam, I want you to know that I appreciate what you and your friends are doing on behalf of my case, and I want to thank all of you. It is really encouraging to have people who understand what I have done and are caring and acting for my release. And then, as is the case in parts of this letter, it is censored. There's a black mark deleting certain portions of this letter. I have received all of your letters and many letters from the United States, and I start this year to write again. In spite of the censorship, I must write and let people know about my case. This year, the 50th anniversary of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we have to remember and not forget the Holocaust of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This is the real danger of this age. The danger is not another Hitler or Nazism, but another Chernobyl or nuclear proliferation to more countries. That can bring a Holocaust like Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And in this year, the truth must be said that the Holocaust on the people of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was a war crime. It was not necessary. It was a test on human beings. The truth is that the United States committed a war crime against innocent people. And the truth is that the United States wanted to test nuclear weapons on human life. That is the problem with nuclear weapons and with power. When they make bombs, then they want to justify their work. There's a black mark deleting another part here. And it could happen in many other countries. So this 50th anniversary of Hiroshima and Nagasaki can be a year of telling the truth about the danger of producing and possessing too much power in a human hand, and telling the truth that Hiroshima and Nagasaki were not necessary at all.